And as Americans, do we get to pick and choose which laws we want to follow?
We do not.
If you're a state court judge, do you get to decide you don't want to follow federal law?
No.
And if you violate federal law, you get arrested, don't you?
Yes, Senator.
That's called equal treatment under the law, isn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Senator John Kennedy just sat across from the FBI director and asked him a series of questions that most politicians would never dare to ask out loud. Do Americans get to pick and choose which laws they want to follow? Does a state court judge get to decide she does not want to follow federal law? And if you violate federal law, you get arrested. That is called equal treatment under the law. He was talking about a sitting judge in Wisconsin who was arrested by federal agents for allegedly helping an illegal immigrant escape federal custody. And that was just the opening. Because then he went after the FBI directly. The agents who tried to stop a presidential election, the settlements paid out to people who were fired for interfering in 2016, the Hunter Biden laptop, the 51 intelligence officials who called it Russian disinformation, and then Jeffrey Epstein. This hearing went places most people did not expect. We're about to watch the entire clip and see exactly what happened.
Mr. Director, worry not, we'll make sure your agency is adequately funded. This judge you arrested in Wisconsin, she was breaking federal law, wasn't she?
Yes, that's why we arrested her.
She was helping an illegal immigrant escape being taken into custody. Is that right?
Yes, and the field agents decided to open the case, work the case.
And as Americans, do we get to pick and choose which laws we want to follow?
We do not.
If you're a state court judge, do you get to decide you don't want to follow federal law?
No.
And if you violate federal law, you get arrested, don't you?
Yes, Senator.
That's called equal treatment under the law, isn't it?
Yes, Senator.
You remember Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, don't you?
Yes, Senator.
Mr. Strzok worked for the FBI. Mr. Strzok worked for the FBI. I think Ms. Page worked for Justice. The Inspector General found in its investigation that they hated President Trump and they really wanted Secretary Clinton to win. Is that true?
That's correct, sir.
And this would be the same same Ms. Page who sent an email to Mr. Strzok with whom she was having an affair. Trump's not ever going to become president, right? Right? And Mr. Strzok with the FBI, senior official at the FBI replied, quote, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Did I read that correctly?
You did, Senator.
Okay. Now, Ms. Page got quit before she could get fired. Mr. Strzok was fired. And predictably, they filed a lawsuit because in Washington, it's easier to divorce your spouse than it is to fire a federal employee. Why did the FBI give Mr. Strzok $1.2 million and Ms. Page $800,000 to settle a lawsuit?
Senator, I do not know that settlement was reached in the prior administration.
Who made the decision?
The prior Department of Justice.
Who in the prior Department of Justice?
The settlement for that kind of case can only come from the Attorney General, which would be Attorney General Merrick Garland.
So the Attorney General decided to give Mr. Strzok $1.2 million and Ms. Page $800,000 after they were fired after actively interfering in the 2016 election. Is that right?
My understanding is that was a settlement they agreed to.
Pass me the sick bucket, please. The Hunter Biden laptop. In October of 2016, shortly before the election, the New York Post wrote a story that was widely covered talking about Mr. Hunter Biden's influence peddling scheme based on his laptop. A couple of weeks later, Secretary of State, soon to be Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, organized a group of 51 so-called intelligence experts had some real rock stars on the list. Jim Clapper, John Brennan, Michael Hayden, Leon Panetta, and they said, oh, no, the story in the New York Post is not true. It's based on Russian disinformation. You remember that?
I do, Senator, as the lead investigator for Russiagate for the House Intel Committee.
Yeah. The FBI had had the laptop for 10 months, hadn't they?
They did, Senator.
So the FBI knew right before the election that it wasn't Russian disinformation, didn't they?
And that was confirmed by the Inspector General's report.
Yeah. Who at the FBI refused to let the FBI tell the American people the truth?
I don't have that name in front of me, sir.
Well, would you look?
I will, sir.
I'd like to know. I'd like a name, not a division. I'd like the name. Person with a brain and a beating heart.
Yes, sir.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Kash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Reid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director. As you're well aware, DOJ.
Senator John Kennedy sat down across from FBI Director Kash Patel and wasted no time. He started with the arrest of a sitting judge in Wisconsin. Federal agents had taken her into custody on allegations that she helped an illegal immigrant escape federal detention. Senator John Kennedy asked Patel directly, was she breaking federal law? Patel did not hesitate. Yes, that is why we arrested her. Senator John Kennedy pressed further. Do Americans get to pick and choose which laws they follow? Patel said no. Does a state court judge get to decide she is above federal law? Again, no. And if you break federal law, you get arrested. Yes, sir. Senator John Kennedy called it by its proper name, equal treatment under the law. Then he pivoted to a chapter of FBI history that many in Washington would rather forget. Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, two senior federal officials, one at the FBI, one at the Justice Department, who were investigated by the Inspector General and found to have harbored deep personal bias against Donald Trump and a strong desire to see Hillary Clinton win the 2016 election. Patel confirmed it. That is correct, sir. Senator John Kennedy then read aloud from their text messages. Page had written that Trump was never going to become president. Strzok, a senior FBI official, replied, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Patel confirmed Senator John Kennedy had read it correctly. Both officials eventually left the FBI. Page resigned before she could be fired. Strzok was fired, and then both of them sued. Senator John Kennedy made a pointed observation. In Washington, it is easier to divorce your spouse than it is to fire a federal employee. But here is where it got remarkable. The prior Justice Department, under Attorney General Merrick Garland, settled those lawsuits. Strzok received $1.2 million. Page received $800,000, both payments made after they had been removed from the FBI for actively interfering in a presidential election. Senator John Kennedy asked who made that decision. Patel said a settlement of that size could only be authorized by the Attorney General himself. So, Merrick Garland personally signed off on paying $2 million combined to officials fired for trying to influence the outcome of the 2016 election. Senator John Kennedy said, "Pass me the sick bucket, please." Then came the Hunter Biden laptop. In October 2020, weeks before the presidential election, the New York Post published a story about Hunter Biden's business dealings based on the contents of his laptop. Within days, soon-to-be Secretary of State Anthony Blinken organized a group of 51 former intelligence officials, including James Clapper, John Brennan, Michael Hayden, and Leon Panetta, who signed a public letter saying the story had the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Senator John Kennedy pointed out that the FBI had been in possession of that laptop for 10 months before the letter was published. They knew it was not Russian disinformation. Patel confirmed it. The Inspector General's report had made that clear. Someone inside the FBI made a decision not to tell the American people the truth before they went to vote. Senator John Kennedy asked Patel who that person was. Patel said he did not have the name in front of him. Senator John Kennedy said he wanted a name, not a division, not a department, a specific person with a brain and a beating heart. Patel said he would find it. And then came the final question. Senator John Kennedy looked at Patel and asked, did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him? Patel said he believed Epstein died by suicide in his cell at the Metropolitan Detention Center. Senator John Kennedy then asked whether the FBI would release all of the information and files related to Epstein's death. Patel said they were working through that process with the Department of Justice, being careful to protect victims and avoid releasing material that was either irrelevant or inappropriate for public release. Senator John Kennedy asked when it would be done. Patel said in the near future. Senator John Kennedy said, like before I die? 5 topics, 1 hearing, an arrested judge, $2 million paid to fired FBI agents, a presidential election potentially shaped by a 51-person disinformation campaign the FBI knew was false, and the question of whether the most famous prisoner in modern American history actually died the way the government said he did. Kash Patel answered every question. Some answers satisfied, some did not, and some questions are still waiting for the names and the documents that go with them.